Ladies and gentlemen of CALRADIA, welcome to the video and welcome to the channel, my friends. And today, guys, we're going to be jumping in with 5 more tips for Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. So these tips are going to be a little bit more focused on the mid game and the late game. And these are things that, as I've really put a lot of hours into my campaign, into my streams and all that sort of good stuff, I found to be really useful. And honestly, some of this stuff I didn't know about for a long time, and it's been absolutely just eye-opening. So firstly, let us begin with the first tip here today, which is going to be donate your prisoners once you become a vassal instead of ransoming these bad boys. So when you're in the early game, let's say you're going out, you're hunting down looters, and you're able to capture some of the looters as prisoners. Well, at this point, when you're simply on your own, you're not a mercenary, you're not a vassal, the best thing you can really do with these guys, of course you can recruit some of them, but honestly, it's not really worth it to recruit looters. But what you do is you take the looters back to the city and you go to the tavern and you ransom them. Now, this is the ideal thing to do in the early game. It gets you some money, gets you a little bit of progression, and it's pretty efficient. However, a big however, once you become a vassal of a faction, so let's say in my case, I'm a vassal of the Delegate. What you want to do is when you take prisoners from warring nations, whether it be looters, any sort of prisoners, you go back to a major city. So it can't be at a castle. You have to go to a major city, if I'm not mistaken. You go back to the city, and then from there, you go and you actually donate the prisoners to the prison. So you go, instead of going to the tavern, you go to the prison and you donate the prisoners. Now, you'll notice when you do this, you're not going to get any gold. However, it does increase your influence pretty heavily. Now, influence is by far one of the most useful mid-game stats. Let's say you're wanting to conquer a little bit. Hey, let's spend some influence and gather up armies. So once you have good influence, you can summon armies from your allied forces. They'll join you in a big core and you can go take castles. You can take down cities. It's really useful for progressing a war and also progressing your campaign. Now, on top of that, if you're looking to get a castle faster, your own fiefdom, get a little bit of a cozy lair upon which to chill. Basically, having this extra influence is huge because when your kingdom captures a castle or a city, generally there is a vote system in place. You go in, you spend your influence to vote on yourself, and it will exponentially increase your chances of getting a castle in your own fiefdom. So that's definitely very important. Now, the next tip in today's video, guys, is going to be using a two-handed axe or polearm from horseback for ultimate ownage. This is just so... When I discovered this on stream, so many people have been telling me like, hey man, you should really, the couch lance is cool and all, but I would highly recommend using a two-handed weapon or a polearm or an axe from horseback. And when you're doing this, you really need to make sure that the weapon you're using has really high swing damage because you're going to be riding by on your horse and just straight up doing a drive-by. You come up and under, you swing low, and really it's just exponentially more effective than using a couch lance. You guys will see in the video that's appearing on the screen now. You can do so much damage so quickly and just pretty much one-shot anything. And the range is so far also. The couched lance, it's really cool, but it forces you to expose yourself. If you have a couched lance, you're riding another cav unit, they're going to be able to hit you back for the most part. It's a really dicey situation. But with the big two-handed axe, you charge the opponent, and right when you get close to them, you hard cut the direction away from them, swing the axe, you'll hit them, their lance or spear will miss, and you'll prosper. On top of that, it's just so much better than pretty much everything else. And I found the most optimal way to ride my character in campaign is to use a big two-handed polearm, a bow, and then 2 quivers. Obviously, for really long battles, if it's really drawn out, you're going to want some extra arrows. But really, try out a two-handed axe or polearm from horseback. Really practice that low-angled swing, and you'll never look back. It is so damn good. So the next tip here on the list, number 3, is going to be use the Delegate command to high micro units. So for example, let's say you're in a huge battle. I would recommend, and this has been something I've learned from trial and error for sure, but I would recommend controlling your infantry and archers. So you kind of work those guys, you position them, but if you have an army that's like the Delegate, for example, you have 1,000,000 horse archers. Well, it's a little bit tricky to be super efficient with them. So what I usually do is go to the movement orders and give them a Delegate command. So the Delegate command basically lets the AI take over. And if they are a horse archer unit, they'll just micro. And same goes for like heavy cav, for example. If you delegate to them, they'll pretty much cycle charge. They'll charge in, they'll pull back, they'll charge in, they'll pull back. But again, I would be a little bit more hesitant to delegate to the heavy cav. What I like to do is get the infantry in position, archers up behind them. And when the mainline fighting starts, I send in the heavy cav with the infantry. But in the beginning, like right when the battle starts, I've had pretty good success at delegating my horse archers to go do their thing. They kite, they fight, they cackle, they live life. So number 4, guys, is to muster an army to conquer harder objectives. And this is really similar to what we were talking about earlier when it comes to getting that influence. So just 1 and 4 kind of go together here. You donate prisoners, you get a ton of influence with your nation, and from here you can muster an army. So you go to the army tab, and then basically you just spend influence to summon different armies. You'll be able to see as well how long it takes to get to you. So this can be something for your planning. If you're in an emergency, right? You're trying to defend a castle, it's being attacked, you need an army to come to you quick. You can filter by the armies that are very close to you, and they'll come and join your banner. So once the armies do come join you, you'll notice that you become one big army. There is a cohesion function, so you can basically spend more influence to keep the army together longer until it decays and kind of breaks apart. But for the most part, you spend your influence, and this is really big for the mid and late game. It really allows you to just go ham and go take these different, settlements and castles and things like your army, in the early mid game might only have a unit capacity of, let's say, 72 or maybe like 110 once you get to the middle or late game, et cetera, et cetera. But, by getting this army together, you're really going to be able to conquer much earlier. And it's really nice. It can get you a lot of good loot. You can send in the AI's troops and let your troops not take the beating. It's really good for kind of getting things done. And if you can really synergize this with having a ton of influence, you get an army, you go take a castle, the vote goes up, and you have more influence. You can pretty much bully your way into getting the castle. Now, of course, even with spending a ton of influence, you might not get the castle, but it does increase your odds, which is definitely quite nice. Now, the last one is by far the trickiest. It's going to be practice blocking without a shield. So guys, we're going to be jumping on over to the battle where I'll show you guys how to block without a shield, which I think is by far one of the more difficult things in the entire game. It's something that, if you're not good at it and you don't have a shield, and especially if you're going for a polearm and bow build with double quiver, you're going to be in a lot of trouble if you get stuck on the ground versus troops. So we'll be jumping into a practice arena here, guys, and we'll see you in just a second. All right, my friends, and now we're here to show you the basics of blocking without a shield. So the very first thing you're going to want to do is take a look at that little white arrow on the screen. So you notice that as I look around, that little arrow that appears, and of course I'll do my best to highlight it in the editing, will show you the direction that your block and attack is going to be performed from. So as your opponent comes in with an overhead attack, for example, if you're looking upward like this, you will block activating using the right click on your mouse, and that triggers the block. So to block an overhead attack, you want to make sure that little arrow is looking up. And then if I want to block one to the left, you look down and hard to the left, and boom, you're going to block from there. Same with the other side here. And again, every time I'm doing this, I'm using the right click. So a lot of this is done just by looking around. If they're coming in with a thrust or a low body attack, you look down and bam, slam that right click, left, right, and up. So you can do this like a little bit less dramatic. Obviously, I was really throwing the mouse up, but this is based on like your mouse function. So if you look to the left, you'll see that is triggered. This is triggered here, down and up. So up, left, right, and down. So as the AI comes in, they're a little bit more predictable, but sometimes on the harder difficulties in the game, the AI will, of course, pretend to go one direction and go the other. And again, for this video, I'm just showing you guys the very basics. Combat can actually get quite complex with the length of your weapon, where you make contact, juking, loading your attacks, having feints to really throw off the AI blocking. But we'll do that in a separate video someday once I get a little bit better. But for today's video, we're just going to show you the basics of this good stuff here. So up, left, right, and down. And again, we'll put this into a practice here in just a minute. And the same goes for attack. So if you're looking up, you're going to do the overhand chop. And you notice how the arrow was down there for a second. That's going to be a thrust. It's going to be a low attack, just like this. Boom. And that's a low thrust right there. This is a swing there and a swing there. So yeah, the block and the attack function pretty much work the same. Again, to activate your block, you use the right click on your mouse and you hold it. And you just, to switch angles, you're just going to be doing this. So getting really good at doing this is, I think, one of the biggest skill gaps in the game that really separates really good players from players who are a little bit newer. And all right, my friends, so a pretty good way to actually practice blocking without a shield is to go to do the practice fight in the arena. Now, of course, I'm going to get crumped a little bit. I'm not the best at this. It's been something that I've really been trying to improve. Going into multiplayer and playing against these really good players, it seems to be the big difference maker. If you can block without using a shield, it's really going to help you quite a bit. And in campaign as well. I mean, if you get knocked off your horse, that is really your crutch in many ways, right? You're riding about, you're safe, you're out of reach because you're on the horse. There are going to be times where you get knocked off and you actually have to duel a very high level tier 5 troop. And this can be the difference between life and death. So let us go ahead and go into the practice fight and watch me get embarrassed by the AI. And of course, if I was fighting back, it wouldn't be too bad. But in this case, we're going to put away our shield and we're just going to be blocking with our weapon and just trying to kind of maximize that. Now, there are archers in here, so it can be a little bit precarious. Let's see if we can lure this guy in. Hey, buddy. There he goes. He's drawing his axe. He's going up top. Block there. And he's going up top again. We block again. This guy really likes the overhand chops. We're going to the right. We missed that one. This one's going that side. Up top. To the right. Okay. Just put that guy out of his misery here. So now we'll get the spear guy coming in. So he's going for a thrust. We block low. Thrust. We block low. Up top we block. Up top we block. Up top we block again. Come on. You're part of my tutorial. Okay. Screw this guy. We've had enough of you. Block to the right. Block to the other side. Oh, that was an upper block, and he jukes me. But you can see we blocked probably about 60 or 70% of those attacks, and of course, had we been fighting back or using our shield, it wouldn't have been that bad. But even still, like being able to block 1 or 2 of those really can be the difference maker between you being taken prisoner and your army losing, or the game going a little bit better. So hopefully that was useful for you guys. It is something that I think is going to take a lot of practice to really get to the point where you're in that comfort zone where you can basically just be like, oh yeah, I can totally block all these attacks, but it is a tricky thing. If people juke you or load the attacks and switch angles, you need to be really quick as well, but it's something to work on, and hopefully that was helpful for you guys. So again, I just want to thank you guys all so much for watching the video. Hopefully these tips were helpful. Certainly things I've been working on, but yeah, we'll be back with Bannerlord streams. And if there's any other aspects of the game you guys really want to see covered, please let me know. But if you guys are looking for really, really good guides in Bannerlord, make sure to check out my pal Italian Spartacus. He's been doing a really, really good job with all the guides, and they're very thorough and very well done. So make sure to check those out. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Take care.